everyone, this is Christine from the Door Doctor, and today we're going to be making a burlap rose flower center. This is a flower center I like to use on a lot of my wreaths. It's one of those, I would say, simple but not easy tutorials in that the actual steps, when you think about it, are pretty simple to learn, but it takes some time and patience when you're working through them to get the actual shape of the flower center that you want. This is one that I've made previously that I have as an example, so this is what we're going to be aiming for today. For my flower wreaths, usually I make this about 5 centimeters, or rather 5 inches in diameter, but certainly you can make them smaller. You can use them for all other kind of decorative adornments and different types of wreaths. So part one, I think we'll talk about materials on how to get to this result. And then part two, we'll work through the technique together so that you can finish with a product like this, okay? So in terms of materials, not too many here. First step is finding your material. And so what I like to use is 5.5 to 6 inch wide loose weave burlap. And so you can find this at various websites. This is from Hobby Lobby. So Hobby Lobby has a few colors. Walmart online has a number of colors. And then Craft Outlet also has some loose weave burlap. Loose weave because it's very flexible. And you can see that there's lots of little holes in here. And so you can twist it and bend it pretty easily. The diameter of 5.5 to 6 inches, I don't think that's set in stone either. Certainly you could use something thinner, narrower rather, or something a little wider, but the wider you go, the larger the flower petals, the more narrow you choose, the smaller it'll be overall in terms of dimension, okay? So today I think we're going to be using, I have a couple examples here. I think this was from Hobby Lobby, this red color. I have this off-white sort of cream color, and this is going to be used for a yellow flower wreath that I already have made. And so we'll use this to make our actual flower together. These rolls, depending on where you purchase it, this particular roll from Hobby Lobby is 15 feet in length. And if I were to use this, I could probably make 2 to 3, probably a good 3 rosette flowers. You know, they're fairly large size. So if you're going to make them smaller than 5 inches in diameter, you could probably get more out of a roll of this. Okay, so that's the burlap. That's the base of your flower. And then everything else is really accessories. So this is basically burlap and glue. So you're gonna need your glue gun. I have mine heating up off to the side, a lot of glue sticks. And I would say because of how much gluing you're gonna be doing, you want some finger protectors to keep yourself from burning yourself. I do that a lot. And so we'll be using those, a pair of scissors to cut your burlap. And then I usually like a 12-inch pipe cleaner to thread through the back of the flower, sort of like I have here, so that you can attach it to your wreath afterwards, okay? So I'm gonna clear some of this away. We'll start with our burlap and we'll get to working. So I've cleaned off most of my supplies with the exception of my glue sticks, my finger protectors, and of course my burlap. And for these rosettes, I don't usually cut my burlap. I leave it all attached to the main spool. I'm never quite sure how much I'm going to use or when I'm going to stop my flower. So I like to leave it connected, but you're going to have some space, I think, to unroll this a little bit. Fortunately, we don't have too big of a spool of burlap for this particular example. And you don't need to really worry about this end here and how shaggy it looks. You don't need to trim that or anything. To begin, I think the most important part is how you start the rosette and take your time with this because that tight flower center is really dependent upon how you begin here. So this is probably the more critical part of the tutorial. So for the whole flower, you're not using this in its 5.5 inch width. You're actually folding it. And so you want to fold it towards you, okay? And the folded edge is what's going to be facing up on your rosette throughout the whole project. So obviously you can't keep folding this right into the roll, but you're going to fold probably about 5 or 6 inches like that. And then I'm going to use my glue. I'm going to place a little dot of glue so that, let me just show you this first, so that you can hold it in place, fold it into a triangle. So usually you fold it in half like this, and then I take the burlap again and glue it so that it has this sort of triangular fold. Okay. Just put a little glue there. Fold it. Let's get my finger protectors out so I don't burn myself right out of the gate. And I'll show you this. This doesn't have to be a perfect seam here. You're gonna have, this is why you have to take your time with this. This little seam here doesn't have to be perfectly matched. It's easier if it is, but it's not essential. Okay, so this is how you're gonna start. And then, it's hard to explain verbally, but I'm going to take this kind of shaggy end and roll it inward. This is going to be the inner part of your rosette, okay? And I'm just going to roll it inward enough that it looks sort of like that, little tubular section. And I'm going to carefully put some glue here to hold that tubular shape, okay? So my glue went right there. I'm just gonna hold it for a second. There's a lot of gluing and holding, gluing, folding, holding. That's kind of the whole tutorial. All right, so now you've sort of rolled it and glued it. Then this top part with the fold is gonna fold back a little bit. And this outer side, you're gonna put glue on and sort of attach it to the outside of your flower, okay? So you've got this nice inner portion of your rosette, some glue on the outside, and then fold back. Place it right there. And I'm gonna take this, fold it where the glue is, and hold it. I'm gonna go without the glue protector, or the finger protectors. And so you can see how that looks. Okay, the glue is right under my index finger. And then just patiently wait for a beat. And then you'll see that here you have this folded portion, again, triangular looking. And the rest of your burlap is unrolled to the left. This is my left. You sort of want to flip that over so it doesn't get too twisted, okay? And then you're gonna move on to the next step. So I'm gonna try to keep these edges as close to matching as I can, these raw edges. And now you're gonna fold around. So you're gonna come around, glue here, and then fold back. So let's put some glue right here. Getting dangerously close to my fingers. I'm gonna take this with it folded, come around, hold it where you had the glue for a minute. Okay, I'll bring it closer. That's where the glue is underneath there. And then you're gonna plan on folding this back. Okay, so I think that's glued pretty well. And I think I'll place the glue on the outside right here. So a little strip of glue. And then you're gonna fold this carefully, fold this back, and then hold it. And then I flip over my burlap roll just so it doesn't get all twisted up. Okay, we're gonna keep doing this. This is pretty monotonous. That's really the tutorial. You're just gonna keep coming around. Let's see. So now you're gonna put glue on the inside, attach it, glue on the outside, fold it. Glue on the inside, roll it, glue on the outside, fold it. And you're gonna try as you move through this roll of burlap, keeping this, for the most part, folded exactly in half. And you're gonna always have this little triangular bit that's gonna give you that nice shape as you fold over. All right, so a little glue on the inside, come around, hold it. I'm gonna use my finger protectors here. So glue is right underneath here. The burlap's not that thick, so you can burn yourself pretty easily. All right, so glue there. And then you're going to find a place on the outside of the rosette to fold over. Okay, and I like to always look before I glue just to see if I like the way that shape is to the petal. And then we're gonna fold that, hold it. And this length here, I'm just making sure that that kind of triangular fold is still fairly matched up seam-wise. I'm gonna flip this over. There we go. All right. So now back to glue on the inside, or rather glue before you fold, glue and fold. So glue right there, attach that, hold it, and fold over. Give that a second. I can feel the glue under my fingers here. And then glue on the outside here. And then carefully fold this. All right. So then back to this inside part. Another piece of glue. Oops, I'm running out of glue sticks. Hold on. So there's one glue stick for that part. I have about 10. I don't think I'll use 10, but you don't want to run out of glue. So a little glue on the inside, pull this up, hold it there for a second, squeeze it till you feel like it's attached, and then you're going to fold this back. Don't fold it all the way down. You're going to sort of hold it and fold it over your finger. All right. And at this point, your finger's going to be covered in glue. Mine always are. Let's see. Hold that. So every so often you should step away and get a sense of whether you like the shape or not. It's not a complex tutorial, but you do want to take your time with it so that you don't invest all this time, all this burlap in something that ends up looking funny and unlike a flower. So now this is about, not even 3 inches, and you could certainly stop and add this to a wreath and finish this, and I think that would be lovely. But I'm going to keep going. Like I said, I intend to make this about 5 inches in diameter, and I'll probably use close to the rest of this spool of burlap to do that. So I'm going to actually step away and keep repeating these same steps until I get it to approximately the size, probably a little smaller than this one, and then we'll finish things together. Okay, so I'll be right. All right, I'm back, and I think I'm getting close to the end with this flower. I think instead of 5 inches, right now at sort of 4.5 inches, and I think that's probably a good size for the wreath that I'm making. And so we'll finish this off together. I'm going to put a little bit more glue. This doesn't have to be super precise how you finish it. Just has more to do with, or when you finish it, has more to do with the shape. And I think for me, it looks more or less balanced on each side, so I like that. That's when I feel like I should quit while I'm ahead, and it's the right size for the wreath that I'm going to be making. And so usually I finish on an outward fold. Right there is where I put my glue underneath my index fingers. And then I'm just going to cut off some of this burlap, cut the rest of the roll. Again, doesn't have to be too precise. And then I'm just going to fold this to the back of my flower just to get it out of the way. I want to make sure it still looks pretty from the front. Hold that for a second. And then I'll fold this piece back too, so it's out of the way. Let's see. Throw some glue there. What I would say with this tutorial is to be patient, go slow, get an extra roll of burlap and practice. The first couple times I did this, I had some real wild looking flowers that were just not right. But once you get the hang of it, this can go quite quickly. And then what I like to do once the back is sort of drying is I like to go along the sides here. And if there are any of these little rolls that seem a little, not loose, but they need a little extra reinforcement, I'll stick a little glue in there, you know, especially in the center here. You glue it fairly deep, or stick the glue in fairly deep so you don't see it. And then I like to shape it a little bit. Like back here, this seems a little too vulnerable, so I'm gonna stick a little extra glue, press on that a little bit so that it doesn't start to unfold after all that work. Okay. Let me just check around the edges here. Seems pretty good. I have glue all over my fingers. That's usually par for the course. All over my table too. All right, so that's about 4.5 inches. And then to finish it, I don't worry too much about the back here. What I like to do, so that's how my back looks. It's not, you know, perfectly neat. I'll probably cut some of these little extra strands just so you don't have those in the way. I just like to take my pipe cleaner and thread it through the burlap so that you have something, and I try to do it fairly deeply so it doesn't pull out here. So we'll stick it through here and then try to come out this other side, and that way you can attach it to your wreath. Let's see if the burlap cooperates with me. Yep. So again, nothing fancy on the back. All right, and there's your front. And then let me see if I can grab my wreath. So this is the sunflower I've been working on, and it has a hint of cream in it, and so I thought that that would look well proportioned for this wreath. So a nice color match. So we're just going to thread our pipe cleaners through, see if that cooperates. It's pretty tight. There we go. If you've followed any of my other tutorials, then this type of wreath will look familiar to you. But this is just a nice, you know, a different type of finishing touch compared to some of my other flower centers. All right, hopefully that was easy enough to follow. Like I said, you have to practice a bit with that technique to get it really quick and easy. But hopefully you'll be able to use this with some of your wreath crafts. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to see more of my tutorials. Have a great day.